Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. Be quite nice. Have a good time. You'll be very evil. And you'll have that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And I used to say, hey, Greg Morgan, and he used to say, please call me Greg, and I wouldn't do it.
Good mic work. Commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, Smackdown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cells.
And now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Lou Thez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the power.
Listen to the podcast, subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good mic work commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're gonna have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
It is Saturday once again. How you guys doing? Welcome to your CM Punk Eagle podcast for May 20th, 2023. We are going to continue with the CM Punk and Elite and AEW drama dominating this podcast for what has to be close to a year now. It has been what a roller coaster ride of drama we've been on over the past few months. At this point, I think it would be hilarious if all parties involved would just show up in the middle of the ring on Dynamite and say, ah, ha, 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 we got you. Look at the turmoil we put all the fans through, the dirt sheets, the wrestling journalists, the fans, everybody trying to, figure out what the hell exactly has been going on with this whole situation ever since Brawl Out last September. And here, about a week ago on this podcast, I was kind of jumping for joy because I felt like we were nearing the end. Finally, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Yes, when we get to the end of that tunnel, there's still, a lot of issues within AEW, but at least with everybody back and working there, we at least know what's going to happen. After that, with the brand split, with certain wrestlers not getting along with others, that could be a whole different disaster for another day. But at least we knew likely what was going to be announced with AEW's Saturday Collision show and CM Punk's involvement and all of that. That is what we were expecting on Wednesday with the network upfronts and with Tony Khan's announcement on Dynamite. We kind of got that, but only halfway, and there's been a lot of last-minute drama attached to the Collision announcement and CM Punk being removed from all of the promotional material for AEW Collision at the last minute. Nobody really sure knows why, but there's a lot of Ace Steel conversations here, and we're going to do our best to kind of detail the latest developments in all of the CM Punk drama. I was hoping this would be the final, maybe, or there would not be a CM Punk dominated thumbnail on this episode, because I thought we would get the announcement last week. It was done. We pretty much now just got to sit and wait until we get to June 17th for Collision, and then we can kind of resume all of this nonsense. But we didn't get that announcement. We only got it halfway. Chicago has still not been officially announced, and neither has CM Punk, leading to a whole bunch more speculation online from lots of different sources. We're going to talk about Brian Alvarez, Fightful Select, Nick Hausman, Dave Meltzer. There's a lot of different pieces. Wade Keller had a piece on this, I think, and a lot of different different reports from different places. We're going to try to put all this together and see if we can figure out anything here. And I am just a lot more uneasy than I was a week ago, because even though I still fully believed and knew that there was a lot of internal drama in AEW, I felt like we were close to getting a resolution to where at least the fans and the wrestlers and the talent and everybody knows what the plan is. From there on out, execution of the plan is going to be a whole nother subject, but at least we know what's going to happen. And with that big press release about Collision saying nothing about CM Punk while listing a whole lot of other talent that's been missing lately has been raising a lot of eyebrows. So we're going to be talking a lot about CM Punk, AEW Collision, AEW in general, Double or Nothing coming up in just a week. I think next week, 1 week from tomorrow is Double or Nothing. Big weekend next week. We'll talk about that. We're also going to discuss the death of superstar Billy Graham. Superstar Billy Graham passed away last Wednesday, right in the middle of our AEW live reaction stream. We talked a little bit about it then, but we'll talk a little bit about the superstar later on. In addition to that, we'll kind of get into some of the results this week. I'm not going to talk about Raw at all because I basically didn't pay attention to Raw at all. Last night's SmackDown wasn't great, but there were a couple of interesting things that took place, especially that little bump between Solo and Roman, which I really liked. Dynamite was spectacular, and despite all of the drama surrounding this company right now, there was a great AEW Dynamite. That Roddy and Jericho Falls Count Anywhere match was great. The return of Hangman Page was awesome. There was a lot of good stuff on Dynamite that we do want to touch on as well. And of course, we will preview Double or Nothing and Night of Champions, both coming up next weekend. Doubleheader pay-per-view Saturday and Sunday next weekend. There's a shit ton of videos and content coming to the channel this week, which I will be telling you about, including a doubleheader watch-along tomorrow. One for members, one for the public. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but that is pretty much my hello to you guys. Hope you guys are having a great day. Hope you guys are having a great Saturday. It's been a week, and we got a massive week ahead of us here. 2 pay-per-views, lots of TV, big announcement on Wednesday, all sorts of stuff going on. So I'm glad you guys are here. Please do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button if you don't mind. Get those likes up on the channel as quickly as we can. If you're not a subscriber, please become one by clicking the subscribe button right below. We are on the road to 40,000 subscribers, and we should be there not long at all. We'll probably surpass 37,000 probably tonight or tomorrow or something like that. So please subscribe if you don't mind. And we're going to be up here doing a lot this weekend, including a big double header tomorrow. So if you are a channel member, this is going to pertain to you. You get 2 videos out of me tomorrow night. And the first one is going to be a members only watch along just for the members of WWE Raw from July 11th. I think it's July 11th, 1994. That's that famous Monday Night Raw that has the Bret the Hitman Hart and 1-2-3 Kid WWE title match on it, which is considered one of the best Raw matches of all time. And that show was hand selected by Elizabeth to watch. She's going to join me tomorrow, sitting right here next to me, and we're going to watch that Raw from 1994. That goes live at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Then later on tomorrow night at normal time, normal watch-along time of 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, we're going to be watching King of the Ring 1994. The night that Owen won the tournament, Diesel versus Bret Hart for the title. We've got Roddy Piper and Jerry Lawler, and we have Art Donovan to relive and remember tomorrow night. So tomorrow is going to be a fun day, a trip back down to 1994. Last week, we took a trip back to 1995. Now we're going to go 1 year before that, 29 years ago, and talk about a couple of shows from 1994. So that's what's going on tomorrow. Not sure if I'm going to be here on Monday night for a Raw review or not. I'm going to wait and see what Raw has advertised, and I'll base it on that. If I'm not going to be here for Wednesday's watch along for Tony Khan's announcement, then I'll probably be here Monday. I'm still working out the Monday and Wednesday thing. Not sure which one of those days you're going to get me. You'll get me one or the other, and maybe a 10% chance you'll get me both. So, like I said, lots of content coming. This coming Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, Double or Nothing and Night of Champions dual predictions. So the links to all of this stuff is on my channel right now, both of tomorrow's watch-alongs and the predictions review or predictions video on Thursday. Links are up now. I will have links for Night of Champions and Double or Nothing reviews next Saturday and Sunday posted on the channel probably tonight or this weekend sometime. So just keep a lookout on the channel. The latest content playlist is the one I keep at the top, and that's going to have all my latest shit and upcoming stuff right there for you, right at the top of the page. So keep a lookout for that this week because you are going to see a lot of me. Buckle up. Let's go to the chat. Say hello to everybody that is hanging out here, and then we will get into some shout-outs and get into our wrestling news. Let's start with some channel members like Zane G. What's up, my friend? Paul Carpenter, I will acknowledge that in just 1 minute. Tanani, good to see you as well. Not many channel members. Oh, there's some more. There's Deshaun, there's Isaac, there's Ronnie. Good to see you guys. What is up? Let's see who else is here. Mark Gallen chiming in with $5. I appreciate that, dude. Hoping Adam Cole joins the Elite and Roderick Strong joins BCC. That's going to take some doing because right now it seems like Cole and Roderick are as one. But you know, if that breaks up, Cole going to the Elite, Strong going to BCC, that could work. They both fit in those respective factions. Yo, I like it. Good to see Michael Kumo as well in here, along with Rodrigo. Who else is here? Oh, not many people right now. Beetle 911, Joe Brill, JL, good to see you. Brandon Anderson, Red Raven Rucker. We have William Cullen, Big J, Sonic Plays, Martin Tomlinson, good to see you. Nicola is here as well. Jordan Smith, Jay Lambo, Big MGM, MJ Parker, another channel member chiming in. Good to see all you guys. Hope you are having a fantastic weekend. I do not want to take too long to get through this nonsense, so let's cruise over here to the members page, and I want to shout out all of the members and hopefully all the people I'm going to be hanging out with tomorrow when me and Elizabeth watch that 1994 Monday Night Raw. I want to thank Motown Slim, Ian Dunn, Joe Dunn, Stone Cold 10X, MJ Parker, James Williams, Leo Whalen, Jennifer, Super Fluffy Toaster, Chaz Medeiros, Sam, Chris, Ludek, Stephen Taylor, Anthony Matisse, Deshaun Robinson, Ramon Coffee, Big Mike ATP, Colton, Ken Webb, Mike, Titanium Titan, Josiah Blevins, Kevin, Ruben Litton, Fox Star Killer, the Juliet Bitso, Alan Carter, Zach Palgett, Dre. Oh, I clicked on somebody by accident. There we go. Dre, Sean 2018, Jordan Karg, Financial Truth Academy, Devlin Husband, Michael Tong, Longboard, Jeff McMahon, Mikey Too Cool, Luke McAllister, Tar Brehan, Zelius Ward, William, Bo Klavlovic, Corey, Al Ramos Pro, Zach H., Chris Miner, Mike Witt, C-Mac, Mab, Jimmy Anderson, Joshua Aparicio, How Wheezy, Spaz Phoenix, my boy Ronnie, Nicole Lensing, Marcus the Entertainer, Nikita Abalakin, Divine Ricks, Zane G., Chris Barrera, Michael Kumo, John J.E. Dennett, S. Tatanani, Nick Musser, K-Dogs, Kendall, Max Pokebra, Reese Jones, Spectre, Victor Cologne, Isaac, George Morris, Population 420, and the OG JJ Leg. Thank you, everyone, for being channel members. I appreciate that. And tomorrow, you're going to get a little special members-only video. I'm excited for that. Let me thank all of the current patrons over on the Patreon page. I have got videos queued up for Patreon there, ready to go. I just got to finish editing them. It's about finding the time to do these. But if you are a Patreon subscriber, you are getting content coming to the channel. I just got to get it up there. I'm working on it. CTFB, Throwing Rubber Chickens in the Ring. Kenny Ward, Anthony Del Preta, Paul Carpenter, William Joseph Hudson, Chris Broski, Divine Ricks, Ryan Y, Nikita Abalakin, Chris Miner, Super Fluffy Toaster, Alan Carter, Brandon Yelverton. Where have you been, my man? Shoot me an email if you are watching this. Nick Musser, K-Dogs Kennel, Ryan, a different Ryan, John Rediford, Claudio Clavidetcher, Daniel Rodriguez, Reese Jones, Michael Kumo, Navid, and Blake Moran. Thank you for all of your support over on Patreon. I very, very much appreciate it. We do need to be getting into some news, but Paul Carpenter has pointed out that 12 years ago today, the Macho Man Randy Savage passed away. I remember exactly where I was in my very first apartment when I moved here to California. I had only been living in it for about 3 months. I think I moved in. No, I guess it would have been 5. I moved in like January, and I got Bub the very next month in February. So Bub was just, in my life for a couple of months. And I was home watching the news one day, and I saw Macho Man Randy Savage passed away. I can't believe it's been 12 years. That was a rough one. I talked a lot about it at the time on the channel. I've talked a lot about it over the years, about what Randy Savage meant to me as a fan, what his career meant to me, and he's really always been my number 2. Bret Hart has been far and away, head and shoulders number 1 above everybody else, but in terms of my memories, who I was the most fond of as a kid, it was really Randy Savage. It was Randy Savage and Elizabeth. Elizabeth was my number 1 crush, as a kid growing up. I thought she was absolutely beautiful. Randy Savage was my favorite wrestler because he was exciting. He was flashy. He could cut a promo. He was flamboyant. He embodied everything that a pro wrestler should be in my mind. I found him even more entertaining than Hulk Hogan a lot. And I always credited Randy Savage for building himself up to a household name almost as big as Hogan did. I mean, that Slim Jim contract did a lot for Randy Savage. One fucking meat stick commercial made him about as recognizable as, the other major star of that era, Hulk Hogan. And Randy Savage's career was one that's I've always looked back on with great fondness. Of course, we all have regrets. I really wish Randy Savage could have gotten back into WWE before he passed away. It looked like he was getting there because I remember seeing him on like a figurine commercial or something. I'm like, that's a start. That's how it all starts. With Bret Hart, started with the DVD and then the Hall of Fame, and then they were able to work together. Goldberg, same thing, comes in to do the video game. Just that little foot in the door, get the ball rolling on the talks. And, maybe we can all come together and celebrate this, person's career the way they deserve. But unfortunately, Randy Savage passed away, heart attack in the Jeep car accident. We all remember the story. It's heartbreaking. And I wonder, had that not happened to him and that had not been his fate and he would have gone on to live, another 10, 15 years, or if he was still alive right now, I think things would have been different. I personally believe, just in my heart of hearts, that had Savage not passed away, there would have been a Hall of Fame induction for him. He would have reconciled with Vince. Something definitely was fishy with the Vince and Savage relationship. I never really bought too much into the Stephanie rumors, but what was odd is that Vince McMahon was able to reconcile with people like Bruno Sammartino, the Ultimate Warrior, superstar Billy Graham, who we're going to talk about here in a minute, who passed away this week. The fact that he was able to mend those fences, but not mend Macho Man's, is crazy. Macho Man definitely hurt the WWE when he left in 1994. But I don't think he hurt them as bad as, what superstar Billy Graham and Bruno Sammartino were trying to do to WWE, speaking out against all of their allegations at the time. And a lot of those bitter feelings towards Vince, personal bitter feelings towards Vince specifically. And the fact that he was able to work with those guys again and not Savage has always been one of my biggest wrestling fan regrets. And for a while there, it was looking like I was going to have 2 of them, because not only did my second favorite wrestler have a terrible relationship with WWE and the place that made him famous, my first favorite wrestler did as well, Bret Hart. And I didn't know if him and the WWE were ever going to come back together. And when the Hart family started crumbling, after Owen's death, Bret had the stroke, the family's at odds, Stu passes away, Helen passes away. And I just remember thinking, this sucks. The Hart family, this legendary family, I feel like is having a bad, an unhappy ending, a sad ending, a tragic ending, and it just shouldn't be that way. And I'm glad that at least Bret was able to come back and the family has had, some sort of a relationship here and there on and off with WWE. Martha, of course, does the relationship with AEW and the Owen Hart tournament. So, it kind of felt like we dodged a bullet there, but for a while, it just was really disappointing to me that the 2 people that I enjoy, whose WWE careers I enjoyed the most, both had this, horrible falling out with the company. And I just really, really wish that WWE, Vince McMahon, and Randy Savage could have, reconciled their differences before Savage passed, And there's a lot of wrestlers like that we wish would have gone in prior to them passing, but I think Savage is always going to be my number 1, unfortunately. So, it would have been great to get Vader in and a few other guys when they were still alive, but Savage, is my biggest regret. So it's been 12 years now since the loss of Randy Savage, and it sucks, man. But he's not going to be the only death we're going to talk about today, because we do have to talk about superstar Billy Graham, which we will do so in just a little bit. Yeah, the rumors about Stephanie. Well, I've talked about that for years, the Stephanie and Macho Man stuff. And if you do the math, when they're claiming this happened, it would have put Stephanie underage. So I just have a hard time believing that, like that Savage would even have anything to do with somebody who's 16 years old or whatever. I just don't know. But there are definitely some questions that I think will always remain unanswered. And whatever happened between Vince and Savage, that's going to be one of them, unless after Vince passes away, if somebody has some knowledge of this that they want to share after Vince dies, perhaps. But I think we're never going to know, to be honest, what exactly went on there. And like I said, it's one of my biggest regrets as a wrestling fan that we never got that situation figured out. But anyway, rest in peace to Macho Man. You guys all know how much I loved him, especially those of you who've been following me for so many years. But we got to get into some drama. There was some drama on Wednesday, more drama in AEW, and more drama in CM Punk's life, as if this shit couldn't get any crazier. A couple of weeks ago, we had CM Punk showing up to Raw, having meetings with Chris Jericho. We didn't know what the hell was going on, and we're not any closer to finding out what the hell's going on. So here's what we know. Here's the gist of what we know, basically. We all learned about a week ago that on Wednesday, this past Wednesday, the 17th, when the networks did their upfronts, that was when they were going to make the announcement of AEW Collision, the Saturday show that we've all known has been worked out and done. They were going to make the announcement on that, the start date on that, the location on that, and all of the talent that would be involved in that project. That's what we were supposed to get on Wednesday. So Wednesday comes, Wednesday afternoon, they do the big deal. And Warner Brothers Discovery and AEW announces, big press release and the whole deal, the new Saturday show, which we expected, AEW Collision. It's going to air Saturday nights for 2 hours on TNT. The logo, my God, you talking about touching a guy's heart. I'm Mr. Nostalgia. I never shut the fuck up about it. You guys know that. So when you guys were asking me, hey, good mic work, what do you think about the AEW Collision logo? I'm like, what do you think? I love it. I think it looks awesome. I love the throwback. I love the callback to the Nitro, to WCW Nitro, because wrestling did air on that network for many years, and I like it. So that's all great. And then you start reading through everything, and a couple of things they've omitted. Number one is where the show is going to be. Now, we've all heard that United Center is booked. It's on the calendar, June 17th. That's where it's going to be. Chicago United Center, the second coming of CM Punk. Remember all those rumors? But Chicago was nowhere mentioned on this. The only thing that was mentioned was the date of June 17th. Also, it announced and listed a bunch of talent that would be associated with the show, like Miro, Thunder Rosa, Andrade El Idolo. So there's a few people who haven't really been on TV lately who now are going to be featured mostly on the show, from what we can tell. Probably along with, FTR, maybe Jade Cargill, and anybody else who might be on like the CM Punk side of this nonsense. But no mention at all of CM Punk. By the way, Samoa Joe was another guy that was listed on that talent listing. If I'm forgetting anybody, let me know. So they went out of their way to announce talent that would be featured, the stars of this show, yet they omitted the biggest star they have, the one that was supposed to be the centerpiece of this entire show. So why wasn't he announced? What the hell's going on? We talked about that all day prior to AEW Dynamite. So we just thought that AEW is going to allow the networks to announce the show, but the return of CM Punk will be done on TV so Tony Khan can announce it to the audience. That's what we thought was going to happen, but that's not what happened, was it? So we all have to wonder, where the hell is CM Punk? When you fast forward to Dynamite later that night, Tony Khan makes his big announcement. And we were watching it together. I said, okay, quiet down, everybody. I turned the volume way up. I'm like, this is it. This is where he's going to tell us that CM Punk is coming back, because we didn't get that information earlier on today. They must be saving it, right? And by then, there were already some reports about the Ace Steel stuff and all of that. But I was kind of ignoring it, thinking that Tony Khan must just be announcing this on TV, because they've already gone so far. They've got this new show. They've got the United Center booked. They've spent the past year, trying to rectify the CM Punk shit. And it feels like we finally have a resolution, and then it all blows up again. So Tony Khan appears on Dynamite in another pre-tape where he says that it's a big day for AEW. He reiterated or, he elaborated on the Collision announcement with some dates, with the dates in Canada and that one July date in Calgary that will have the finals of the Owen Cup on it. Went through a lot of that, but didn't mention anything else and didn't mention any other talent. And he even gave us a cliffhanger. We thought he was going to announce the date and location for the first Collision, which is a date and location we already know. So why is he not announcing this? He told us that he's going to announce next week where the first AEW Collision is. And that raised a shit ton of eyebrows. I'm like, wait a second. Why are you going to hold this off? Why are you going to wait 1 week to tell us something that we already know? Excuse me if I don't hit my own boom arm here. We already know that the show is in Chicago on June 17th. So why would you not tell us that? Maybe it's because they're going to have to move the show. If CM Punk has had another falling out with this company, and probably the 2,545th falling out of his professional career, and he is now not going to be coming back to AEW, he's not going to be at Collision, they're going to have to move the show because they can't have that in the United Center. Everybody's going to expect him. He's been the talk of all this for so long. Even if they go out of their way and say he's not going to be there and then run United Center anyway, I still think fans are going to expect a swerve or something. So you're going to have to get it out of there and chuck it down in Daly's place or something. And maybe that's what Tony Khan is waiting for. And you talk about cutting down to the wire, man. This is again, this is all speculation. So I'm not talking about this from the context of, oh, this is all fact. I'm just saying if this is fact, if these things are true, this is bad. Because you have a brand new show, your focus should be on that, developing that show, organizing that show, seeing who's going to be on your roster, getting your storylines and your angles and all that shit set for TV, because Saturday is a tough time slot. I saw a lot of people debating whether or not Saturday is a good time to run a show. It's really their only night left. Saturday night is not a great night of the week, but let's not pretend wrestling has never had a home on Saturday night. It made itself famous in the NWA and WCW by 6:05 on Saturday, baby. So there's nothing wrong with Saturday wrestling at all, but it isn't the best time slot, it isn't the best night. But where else are you going to put it? You're either going to go head to head with NXT on Tuesday or with Raw on Monday. You're not going to do that. You could go to Thursday and do Wednesday, Thursday back to back, but I don't know. Friday night we know is a shit market as well. Plus you already have SmackDown on that night, and Sundays are for pay-per-views, and Saturdays are even for WWE pay-per-views. So going to Saturday nights is going to be a gamble already on its own. So you would think and you would want AEW to be just 1,000% focused on this and make sure that this show starts off hot. And after it's done starting off hot, it doesn't cool off, because that's what Rampage did. It's very, very important that this show just does not turn into 2 hours of filler content. And I was against the brand split at first, but now when I see who they kind of have planned for each show, I'm like, well, this is going to give some of these people a chance to now get over and win championships and shit like that and get TV time that they weren't getting before. So maybe it can turn out to be good. There's nothing I can do about it sitting here as a fan. All I can do is watch and hope for the best, right? But you would think that the focus needs to be on that. And if you are a month away, less than 1 month away now from this show debuting, and you are less than 4 days away from announcing where this show is going to take place, that means whatever's going on with Punk and AEW and Ace Steel and all that shit right now needs to be worked out by Wednesday. Actually, probably before then, because, you're going to have to pull out of your United Center deal and book another venue or whatever they're going to have to do for that. And if that's the case, that's going to suck. That's going to be another unwanted distraction. Whether it's Punk's fault or not, who knows, but he's at the center of this, like he's at the center of every goddamn dramatic thing that goes down. And yet again, we've got a company whose future is being derailed by some weird, stupid drama that shouldn't even be happening. And who knows who's in the right or who's in the wrong. Punk was vocal this past week on Instagram and the Brian Alvarez stuff, which we'll talk about. But I find all of this to be yet another unnecessary distraction. I don't understand it. And again, this is all speculation. This is just assuming a lot of these reports are true, like we heard about the Ace Steel stuff. I would just hate to think that we're all good to go. Everything's fine. Same page. Jericho Punk meetings have happened. Everybody's trying to get on the same page here for Collision. And at the very last minute, at the 11th hour, they pull Punk completely because of some other blow up. Man, oh man. So here's what we can gather as to why Punk was removed from all the promotional material. I think even a match graphic was made for him, all of this stuff. Meltzer even said that they removed Punk from everything except for like one link. I guess his name remained somewhere, and then when you click on it, it took you over to AEW Collision, and that was just an error by the marketing team or by Warner Brothers Discovery, not getting him pulled out of everything, and that raised a lot of questions too. So it's a mess right now. So I guess PW Insider is the one that broke the news about Ace Steel being at the center of this latest blow up between Punk and AEW. Fightful Select elaborated with a report that basically confirmed the same thing. This is what we have also heard as well, but again, no confirmation, just hearsay. That story seems to be accurate. And apparently, the story is that Ace Steel was supposed to be brought back, but then was told that he wouldn't be at the arena. So he was going to be brought back, and as Nick Hausman would report later, he was already rehired several months ago and has been working remotely. And apparently he was told or that he was going to be hired back, or he has been hired back and he hasn't been working at the arenas. But when Collision was going to start, the plan was for him to work there as an agent or a producer or closely with CM Punk, or perhaps even on creative with Tony Khan. We really don't know. And apparently at the last minute, it was then decided that Ace Steel was not going to be wanted at the building physically. And that apparently is what caused the latest blow up with Punk, and for them to remove Punk from everything going on. So that's just the story that we've heard. And like I said, various, sites have kind of confirmed them hearing the same thing. Meltzer had a ton of stuff to say about this. He said in several minutes, it took him to say this, but in long story short, he basically says the same thing. Punk was supposed to be announced. Warner Brothers was told to remove him, and he believes that the disagreement was regarding Ace Steel. Punk reportedly wanted him to be rehired or brought back, and Tony Khan didn't. And that kind of contradicts what we heard about Ace Steel already being employed there, what we would hear later. And Meltzer does say, he goes, the belief is that they'll work it out, but they could move the Collision location if nothing is resolved. So again, it's all back to that, trying to figure out if you can resolve this shit by this Wednesday. I mean, hell, Tony Khan might have been better to say, hey, I'll announce the location in 2 weeks. Give himself an extra week to figure this out, because it does not sound good. So Meltzer kind of paints an uglier picture of it. Nick Hausman, however, and I'm pretty sure Nick Hausman, isn't he the guy that started all of this? I know he didn't start it, but he was the one that asked the question at the scrum. And CM Punk, I guess, had this response locked and loaded and ready to go. And he was the one that kind of sparked all of this, or the spark that ignited the fire. And his report this week says that Ace Steel was, in fact, rehired several months ago, but wasn't working backstage. And Nick was told that he'd be on creative, Ace Steel was told he'd be on creative, but has been working remotely. So the same thing we heard. He also went on to say that CM Punk has a good relationship and good communication with Tony Khan, and said that Steel was supposed to return to the road for Collision, but the decision was made to change to not do that. They changed their mind on whatever decision was made there. So basically, he's just saying that there was some miscommunication from lawyers that led Punk to be pulled. And he believes that things can probably be worked out between now and Wednesday. So, the Nick Hausman report seems like it was a little bit more pro-Punk. Meltzer seems to paint a pretty ugly picture of it. Fightful Select, basically just confirming that these stories are the same that they have been hearing in terms of the Ace Steel stuff, but nobody really knows for sure why Punk was pulled at the last minute. And I was hoping that it was just a simple reason. I hope the reason was they just wanted to save the return for TV. But since Tony Khan is kind of stalling on his announcement and saying he's going to announce it next week, makes you wonder, if all of this could possibly fall through. And unfortunately, it does sound like these issues with Punk and AEW and Ace Steel are legitimate. Now, granted, they've been taking us on quite the roller coaster ride over the past 9 or 10 months. And nobody really truly knows what's going on. As Punk himself said in his Instagram story, you don't know me, you don't know anybody else involved, and kind of was throwing shade at, the internet fans, and specifically, I guess, Brian Alvarez, who he posted a couple of different stories about Brian being obsessed or whatever. And I had no idea what that was even about until Bixenspan, Mr. Grumpy Pants, who tends to have his good days and bad days. And he was reminding people of something that I had no idea about, that I guess many, many years ago when CM Punk was rumored to be dating Maria Kanellis, this upset Brian for whatever reason. A lot of people said he had a crush on her. Who knows what the hell? I cannot speak on this because I don't know. I'm just going by what I read today. I like Brian. He follows me. We're cool. I like all the journalists. I don't have any issue with Sean Ross Sapp or Brian Alvarez or Ryan Satin or Dave Meltzer. I don't get caught up in that hate. I got better things to do. But in terms of Alvarez and Punk, that was really funny and kind of like, ooh, that's like juicy and fun. And apparently this stems back years ago when Alvarez was, kind of anti-Punk in some of his reporting and his commentary, and even suggesting some unsavory things about Punk that weren't true or were kind of irresponsible to say. That Punk is not forgotten, and Punk has, I guess, let Alvarez know this. So that was kind of a fun little addition at the end. The fact that Punk is specifically throwing shade at one specific guy makes me think that maybe the situation isn't that crazy, because Punk was, it's not like he went silent or anything like that. He was vocal. He was saying shit on social media on Wednesday when all of this stuff was going down. So that's almost, in a lot of ways, I think, a good sign, because maybe in Punk's head, he's not too worried about this. He's going to get it worked out or whatever. I would hate to think that an Ace Steel employment would hinge on this show getting off the ground or not. I mean, when you think about it, Punk has got an amazing amount of leverage here. It really seems like he's holding all the cards, and he should be able to get what he wants, and maybe that's what he's holding out for. Maybe Punk knows this show doesn't exist without me. I mean, you can try it, but he thinks that, the success of the show is going to hinge on him. And if he believes that, and why wouldn't he, as Tony Khan has already anointed him, the second coming of Christ more than once in those media scrums and stuff. So if he feels like he can get this, he's going to hold out for it. And being in Ace Steel's side of things, and again, we don't know what happened at the fight. We know he bit somebody. There was a bite mark on Kenny's arm, so he bit somebody, that's for sure. I think if you bite somebody in the workplace, you're fired permanently. At least you would be in my world. But maybe in wrestling, it's a little bit different. And I would hate to think that Ace Steel being hired could somehow destroy all of this. And if I am Ace Steel, I would have a little bit of pride too. I don't know if I would want a job. I guess when big time dollars are involved, it doesn't matter. You're going to do what you have to do to get paid. But I would feel uncomfortable about being employed at a place where I knew that the only reason I was employed was because my friend, who's got a lot of pull in the company, basically threatened to leave if I wasn't fired, if I wasn't rehired, or if I didn't get a job there. I would feel uneasy knowing that that's the only reason why I'm working here is because of him. I would feel unwanted, Now, again, I think Ace Steel still has lots of friends and peers in that company that don't have an issue with him being back. I think there was even one of these reports in here that said Jericho was the one that suggested he be brought back. But that contradicts what Hausman said about Ace Steel being rehired months ago. So Jericho should have already known that. Maybe he did, and he was talking about getting Ace Steel back in the buildings, doing actual physical work at the shows. Maybe that's what he was referencing there, and that's fine. But if I'm Tony Khan, I don't know what the right thing to do here is. I mean, I would feel like I would resent CM Punk if he threatened to walk if I didn't hire his friend. I would probably say, fine, I'm going to hire your friend, but now I'm pissed and now I'm going to resent you, and if you're Punk, I'm glad that he's standing up for his friends as well. A lot of guys, Jericho got Luther a payday. I have no problem with people who have high positions in wrestling helping out their friends. That's the way the business has always been. It's never not going to be like that. I'm not going to get pissed about that type of stuff. But this is a little bit different because of what Ace Steel reportedly did during the brawl, and, the physicality there, and the chair throwing and the biting and all of this stuff. that we heard about. Again, we don't really know, but if Tony Khan does not want Ace Steel back, or this is some sort of hang-up that the two sides are disagreeing on, Ace Steel must have done something more than just try to break up the fight and be a good Samaritan. He must have done something, like the biting or whatever, that is making them feel like he can't be brought back. What message does that send if we let somebody bite people and then we hire him back, or whatever? I don't know. I don't know what the story is, because it feels like there's way too much riding on Collision and there's too much at stake to let something like this, to let some backstage fucking agent and producer be the determining factor of whether this show gets off the ground as planned or not. If you're Tony Khan, it might be one of those things. You might have to take the L and just say, fine, I'll hire your fucking friend back. We could just work Collision, please, and can we just call it a damn day? But it's never going to be resolved, because even if Punk is brought back and Tony Khan makes the announcement, Punk is back, AEW Collision, June 17th, United Center, all that stuff, it can still fall apart, because we've been seeing so many things fall apart last minute. Think about, like I said earlier, the roller coaster ride we've been taking on over the past several months. Things are bad, things are good. Punk wants to apologize. Elite wants to apologize. Oh, never mind. They haven't talked to each other at all. They still hate each other. Little digs being thrown on social media. Lines being drawn in the sand with the locker room. These people are on Camp Punk. These people are in Camp Elite. And a lot of that drama. And then sometimes it feels like it's getting better and subsiding. And right after Brawl Out, the morale was bad in AEW after being great. And then it feels like it recovered with Jericho and Danielson and others, and Moxley, taking leadership roles. Tony Khan trying to, right the ship despite all of this drama and despite some holes and issues in creative, which some of their stories have not been great over the past year. They have still been producing quality television. Whatever the ratings say or not, the TV has been good. If you are a wrestling fan and you're not tribal and you watch Dynamite, you will be entertained more nights than you won't be. Period. Just the way it is. And he's been able to do that despite all of this. So I feel like it's the ups and downs, the peaks and valleys of good and bad. I feel like hopefully this all just leads to one just amazing moment in the debut and the success of a new Saturday show, and really starting to formulate AEW's identity and what they're going to do, and the increased content, the relationship with the network. All this stuff seemed like it was being built up positively again, only to kind of crumble here last minute when we thought we were going to get a big announcement and then we didn't. It's crazy that this is all happening, and so much is at stake here with CM Punk coming back. Who's got an age on CM Punk? I think he's my age. He is 44 years old or 45, something like that. I mean, how many more years does Punk really even have? So they need to get him back while he's still healthy-ish and can still wrestle at a somewhat high level, because when he was there, he was having great matches with MJF and Darby Allin, and he did some great stuff. So if they can get him back and get a couple of more good years out of him, drama-free, that is your best-case scenario. But what do you think the likelihood of that happening is? What do you think the likelihood is of CM Punk returning in the United Center on the debut episode of Collision, having a 2-year run injury-free, where he gets along with everybody, wins championships, puts people over, and winds up rectifying any damage that he caused or did a couple years prior to All Out? What do you think the likelihood of that is? That's best case scenario for Tony Khan. And I just don't see that happening. I think Punk will get injured again. I think something else will happen. There's just a whole new locker room of people for him to have falling outs with. So what? The Elite is not there. He'll just find somebody else to hate or whatever. It feels like that's the way it is with Punk. And I don't want it to be, because he is one of the most polarizing figures in wrestling. Remember when Michael Cole used to say that shit all the time about John Cena? But he is, as he said himself on Wednesday, he's been gone for months and he's the talk of everything. He's the king of the wrestling media and wrestling websites and headlines. He dominates headlines. He's been dominating the headlines on our podcast for a year. Well, actually for 2 years if you date all the way back to his return. So it's been a lot of CM Punks. You cannot deny the value his name has, the interest his name brings, the eyeballs his name will bring to the show if he does in fact return and they do this big second coming return for him at Collision. And I just hope it all happens, because even though I have my opinions on CM Punk, how he behaved at the scrum, I don't really care about what I feel like. I care about what's best for wrestling. And I think CM Punk, if I'm Tony Khan, I'm never even speaking to that motherfucker again. Regardless of the kindergarten argument, well, they started it, doesn't matter. What he did was so bonkers, so over the top, so unprofessional. I personally wouldn't want to do business with him ever again. But that's just me personally. If this is in the context of an entire wrestling world and Tony Khan, of course you want Punk back. I was entertained by everything CM Punk did in AEW. From the minute he got there, every programmer he was in, every match, I enjoyed all of it. Some of them were better than others, but everything the Moxley stuff was great. The MJF stuff was great. The Darby stuff was great. I think the Hangman stuff could have been great had it not been for all of the drama surrounding that. I was in the building last year when he won the AEW title. I had never seen CM Punk wrestle live before in my life. I've only seen him wrestle live once in my entire life, and he won a world championship. That's pretty cool. I am a CM Punk fan. I'm just not a fan of all of the shit he brings with him. And what, regardless if it's his fault or not, or who instigates what, he has a reputation of doing this. It's not like this is the first time any of this has happened to CM Punk. If this was a standalone issue and this whole situation, instead of CM Punk, happened with anybody else, if it happened with Keith Lee in the Elite, it would be a whole different situation, because you would be like, what the fuck? Keith Lee's the nicest guy in the world. How in the hell can you get this guy to hate you? But with CM Punk, he's had a track record of this stuff, a long track record with it, a long one. So none of this is surprising. But despite all of that baggage he brings, it's still worth having him around just because of the attention and the buzz that he brings to wrestling. As a content creator, I want CM Punk around. I don't want him completely invisible to the wrestling fans. We already did that shit for 8 years. Now that he's back, he's dominating headlines again, but almost for the wrong reasons. And that is what is great about CM Punk. I will give him that. He does dominate the headlines when he's not around, just because of all the drama attached to him. But when he is on TV, he does deliver. I mean, he's injury prone now. He got hurt by just diving into the fans off the damn stage. I worry about him. He delivered one of the ugliest looking buckshot lariats that you could even imagine. Day one wrestling school type of stuff. He's not perfect in there, but he entertains, and he can still wrestle. His style does mesh well with certain guys, and everything he did in the company, aside from his little injuries and a couple of little hiccups here or there, I really liked. Dude can cut a promo like no other. He gets his point across. He knows how to do business in that regard. And that's where I feel like Punk's value is, even despite all the baggage he brings with him. So as a YouTuber, as a content creator, I want Punk in wrestling because that helps my channel. So there is a selfish reason for me wanting him back as well. But also, I think he is good for AEW in terms of their growth and their outlook on their future. The run that he's going to have in the company, however long this lasts. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think Punk can come back, rejoin the company, debut at Collision, have a good run, and have a good enough run to where he actually re-ups with the company and he sticks around for another 5 years? I just personally can't see that happening. So I feel like AEW should do whatever they can to get as most out of Punk as they can. They're paying the guy a hell of a lot of money, and try to maintain as good of a relationship with him as you can, so he can be a big part of your history 10, 15 years from now. When you're looking back, maybe CM Punk can be the first guy going into your Hall of Fame or something like that, but the relationship has to stay good. And he's somebody, it's just going to suck. It sucks for Tony Khan, because it would suck for any promoter that's in this situation. It sucks that it's in your best interest of your company to maintain a good relationship with this man, but it's going to be a struggle. And you're going to have to work way harder to keep a good relationship with him than you have to work for some of your other talent. But that's how vital and that's how important he is. And it's just going to be a fucking headache. You constantly have to worry about, tap dancing around, walking on eggshells. Is this guy going to flip out and turn on me, if you're Tony Khan, and just all of a sudden hate the company because of some misunderstanding that got blown out of proportion, and then he just dances right over to WWE and he's back on their TV as the commissioner of Raw or some shit like that. And then we can never talk about him again, something like that. I just think it's going to be hard work for Tony Khan to make sure and maintain a good, healthy relationship with CM Punk for the next 10 years. It's going to be a task. And once Punk is officially done in the ring, however his career wraps itself up, whether it's his own doing or whether maybe he's already had his last match. I doubt it, but maybe he has. Or if he comes back, works a couple more years, and he gets some sort of a send-off. But, a lot of this drama is going to be attached to him. And I feel like as wrestling fans, our best case scenario for ourselves, for AEW, and for the career and legacy of CM Punk is for him to have, like, albeit a very smaller one, a much smaller one, a Shawn Michaels type of run. When Shawn came back in 2002, came back for those 8 years, he just worked his ass off. Never won a title. Touched the tag titles for half an hour, right? Won the World Heavyweight title when he first got back. But the rest of his run was beltless. And he was just there working, putting guys over, still being in top storylines, but just really, really putting a nice cherry on top of what was already a Hall of Fame career. But it really helped his legacy by having that comeback. I think had Shawn not come back in 2002, he was still a Hall of Famer, but that comeback changed the opinion of Shawn, and I think Punk needs a run like that. If Punk can come back and just try to be as cordial as possible with everybody, and then if anybody else wants to stick it to him or be, or be assholes or whatever, then we can blame them for that. But I think Punk just needs to come back, be on his best behavior, work his ass off, and try to end his career on a positive note, not a dramatic one. End his career on a happy note, not a sour one, where we can say, oh man, what a run. He had his trouble, man. It was a shaky start with AEW, but man, what a way to close. What a great final match, or whatever, we wind up saying about him. But I just hope that it's a happy ending, not a sad one, because this whole situation has been way more dramatic than it needs to be. And it's something that we're probably always going to look back on as a very significant time. It's like I said, I've said it over and over. It's right up there with the screw job in terms of, the amount of buzz, chatter, and talk it has sparked and it has led to. And we've been talking about it, like I said, for a whole year. And man, and still no closer apparently to getting this thing resolved. So this coming Wednesday on Dynamite is Tony Khan's big announcement. He's going to announce the location of the first Collision, which of course we know the date. We just don't know the location yet. So the belief is that if CM Punk has worked things out with the company, it'll be in Chicago. If not, and this whole thing has fallen through, which would just be mind-blowing if it did. But if this whole thing actually falls through and Punk is gone now, he has walked out of loyalty to Ace Steel, and he's never coming back to AEW, then I guess you're chucking this shit in Daly's place and going to try to make the best of it. And then you can move on from there. But either way, I'm hoping that at least the temporary resolution that we thought we were going to get this past Wednesday, we get this Wednesday instead. And like I said, I'm not quite sure yet if I'm even going to be home on Wednesday. If I am, I will do a live reaction again of AEW Dynamite, and we will watch Tony Khan one more time try to tell us what the hell is going on. So there you go. There's the latest on CM Punk, AEW Collision, AEW, Tony Khan, The Elite, all that nonsense. We'll be talking more about those guys in a minute, but let me just cruise back over here to the chat and see what's going on over here. We got a decent audience, but shitty likes. Can you guys help me at least get the likes to like 100? And like I said, give me 1,000 likes. I will do the next podcast dressed as the Mountie. So hook me up. I don't think we've had any supers come through other than Mark's. I got you earlier. Yeah, Punk was in TNA there in 2003 briefly. Grandpa Lee. Yeah, he's got that gray hair. That's all right. I got it too. It's coming in. It happens. Happens to the best of us. I kind of like that Keith Lee owns it. Like Keith Lee a lot. I don't know if Triple H wants CM Punk back or not, but Triple H did get a chance to briefly speak to CM Punk, apparently, when he showed up on Raw, and that's a whole nother story that was weird enough when that happened, right? But anyway, we will keep our eye on the CM Punk stuff, the drama. We will monitor it, and we will be talking a lot about it this week because we have another podcast on Thursday where we will be predicting Double or Nothing and Night of Champions. And, of course, we'll be up here all weekend, next weekend, reviewing both shows. So there will be more time to talk about CM Punk. So at the very least, you'll hear my thoughts on it on Thursday. If I'm not up here doing the live reaction and we talk about it that night, then I'll talk about it on that Thursday predictions show. But now let's talk about superstar Billy Graham. Superstar Billy Graham passed away this past Wednesday at the age of 79. And this man, I'll tell you, has cheated death I don't know how many times. I know he had a liver transplant, and I know it's been over 20 years since that happened. And he was kind of on death's door even then and was able to get the transplant, kick out, live, a lot more years, and had a couple of other really close health scares there where we all thought he was going to pass away. And this dates back, even into the 90s, with some of his health troubles from, the steroids and all of the, his lifestyle just in general. The fact that he was able to live this long was pretty incredible. Now, superstar Billy Graham, I'm not going to talk too much about the negatives. Full disclosure, I did not like superstar Billy Graham. Some of the things he said, especially in recent years, were just extremely vile and hateful. And he just seemed like a bitter, angry old man that a lot of times just didn't know what the hell he was talking about. And I think it was a few years ago, I wrote him off for good with the Kofi Kingston stuff. That was it for me. I'm like, I'm done with him. Never really liked him to begin with, but that was, kind of it for me. But however, despite my personal feelings on some of the things that Billy Graham said during his life, you cannot deny the influence that he had on pro wrestling. I'm not even sure if we're sitting here having this conversation, about wrestling at all on a podcast had it not been for superstar Billy Graham, due to how influential he was and how innovative he was, how he took a lot of the charisma that had already existed with the Gorgeous Georges and wrestlers like that and Buddy Rogers, and then took that into his, with his body and his look and the tie-dye and the charisma and the promos and the daddies and all of that. He was really, really innovative for that time, especially in the 1970s. And then as we would see wrestling evolve through the 80s all the way up until modern times, you still see his influences today. And that's why I think superstar Billy Graham is a very important part of wrestling's history, regardless of how he conducted himself in his personal life. Superstar Billy Graham was the WWE champion when I was born in 1977. And I've mentioned many times before, countless times, that my first ever wrestling memory ever is a photo of superstar Billy Graham and Dusty Rhodes. Now, I usually credit Dusty with my first ever memory because I always liked Dusty better, but I'll never forget seeing the picture in a magazine, and I was being taken care of by some kind of I don't even know if they were relatives of the family, some second or third cousins or something that lived in the town that I was living in when I was a little kid. And they took care of me when my mom worked and shit, like around the years, like from 1979 to like 1983, somewhere in there. And it was at this house where I discovered what pro wrestling was. And they had just gobs of magazines and tapes, and my two cousins, I guess, I don't even know their names. I think they were like third cousins or something. They were really into wrestling. One of them did actually take his own life. I did hear in later years, but the other one was into two things: breakdancing. Joel, that was his name, breakdancing and wrestling. And he had just a ton of magazines and tapes. And as a little kid, I would be like looking through the magazines, and I remember seeing the picture of Dusty Rhodes and superstar Billy Graham from the matches they had in Madison Square Garden when Dusty came to challenge Graham for the title. And I've always remembered that. Like, wow, that was like kind of the first time my little tiny body or mind understood or saw pro wrestling ever for the first time. It's the first flashbulb, memory I have. So I've always thought that was pretty cool, that Dusty was kind of my first ever memory. And Billy Graham, given how influential he was and how big those matches were in Madison Square Garden, and how, we have a kind of a chance to repeat a little bit of that here if, in a perfect world, Cody were to win the Money in the Bank, and then on the following Friday Night Smackdown, which is in Madison Square Garden, he cashes in on Roman Reigns. I think that would be fantastic. But Billy and Dusty having those matches in the Garden kind of being my first ever memory, I've always thought was really, really cool. So I've always appreciated that, he was one of the first people I saw. And aside from the Dusty feud, Billy Graham's run was interesting. He held the belt for almost a year. He ended Bruno Sammartino's long run, which I think at that time was his second run. And Bruno had held the title for maybe 3 years or 4 years again after that point, after holding it for like 8 previously prior to that. And he ended Bruno's run with the foot on the ropes. Never forget it. Or I mean, I don't have a personal memory of that, but I remember learning about this years later and seeing the footage many, many times of how Graham beat Bruno with his feet on the ropes and damn near causing a riot. That was a big deal, very controversial, especially at that time. That was, again, you were starting to see, title belts change hands because of cheating and heels cheating to win, and robbing somebody like Bruno of that title gave him a ton of heat. He was a super over heel, like really, really over during that time. And he kind of, he began and developed that persona, prior to getting to WWE. He started with Stu and trained in the dungeon in Calgary, and he went to San Francisco and worked for Roy Shire, and he worked with guys like Pat Patterson and Ray Stevens. And then he came to AEWA, and by the time he was in the AEWA, he had the body, he had the look, he had the promo. He became superstar Billy Graham there. And then when, Vince Sr., brought him into WWF, it was still WWF at the time, and he was able to beat Backlund. I think they might have even kind of promised him a title run if he came in, and he won the title and held it for about a year as a heel champion. And after all those years of Bruno having a heel champion in the company for that long was pretty weird to see, I think, for fans in the 70s. And to hold it for nearly a year was pretty incredible. And he had a great run, and he had those matches with Dusty, and he was pretty iconic. Like, even though he was a heel, I think he really changed the guard, because things were kind of, even though Bruno was very, very over, there's no, Stone Cold Carlito at Backlash. Nobody will ever match a Bruno ovation in the Garden. It's just never going to happen. And even at the end, Bruno was getting those ovations, but still it had been a very stagnant, time in wrestling, because it would just been Bruno, 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 Bruno the entire time. So now that you've got this heel and he's retaining the title or escaping his title for a year, riling up the MSG crowd, they needed a new hero. We weren't really quite ready for Hogan yet, so it turned out to be Bob Backlund. Vince wanted to put the belt on Backlund, and Backlund wound up beating superstar Billy Graham for the title and holding the belt himself for about 4 years until Hogan came around. But, superstar Billy Graham, his persona that he had there in WWE during that time of him being WWE champion was so crazy influential to everything we would see, from that point forward. We would have no Hulk Hogan really without Billy Graham. We definitely wouldn't have had any Jesse the Body Ventura. Jesse himself specifically, I think, patterned himself exactly after Billy Graham. Jesse patterned himself after Billy the same way Benoit patterned himself after Dynamite Kid. It was the exact same thing. He wanted to be superstar Billy Graham. But even if you weren't directly ripping him off, you were being influenced by him. And you were taking elements of his persona, of his character, of his charisma, and putting it into your own. Hulk Hogan did that with his babyface character. A lot of his look, the body and the promo style, a lot was taken from superstar Billy Graham. The flashiness of Macho Man Randy Savage, definitely influenced by Billy Graham. Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes with his promos and stuff. A lot of the biggest names in the 80s were, all took pieces of Billy Graham and worked it into their own personas. And we would see that even in the Attitude Era. Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner, same thing. A lot of Billy Graham you can even see in modern wrestling. And that's pretty cool. The fact that he was that influential and he changed the business from, what it was to being a little bit more on the entertainment side of things, even though they did backtrack a bit with Backlund after Backlund beat him and went on to hold the title for 4 more years, which, didn't please Billy Graham. I keep wanting to call him Bruno. Didn't please Billy Graham very much. He bounced out of WWE after he lost the title because he was pissed. And they brought him back. Now, shortly after that was when he decided to do the Karate Master gimmick. That was probably around 81, 82. He actually came back to WWE and did that, but he had kind of lost the body. He no longer had the hair. He looked completely different. I don't even know if Vince knew he was going to come back with that gimmick. I don't think it was WWE that did the karate gimmick. I think that was Superstar's own doing. He wanted to come back as a gimmick and a character completely separate from what made him famous, which is weird because you should want to come back and make money, and that's how he made all his money. I guess he wanted to be a baby face, but they didn't think, based on his prior run, that he could be a baby face with that character, but I think you could. So instead he created this karate master gimmick, which was super baffling. I don't know how long he stayed there, about a year or so, went to NWA, did the same thing, I think, for a little while, and then reverted back into the actual superstar, put the tie-dye back on, the body came back, the tan came back. He had the goatee now since he lost the hair, and that was a good look for him there in the NWA, and then he would bring that look back to the WWE in '88. He joined the commentary team and even tried to get back in the ring a little bit there until the hip replacement thing had to happen, and he was attacked on TV and went on to manage Don Morocco for a short time. So, he had a really kind of complicated relationship with WWE even in those years, leaving, coming back, making really, really kind of crazy random decisions about what to do with his career. And this guy, he never took a karate lesson in his life, and all of a sudden he's a karate master. These are very bizarre decisions that I feel like he could have done better had he just not been that reckless with his decision making. And but he had a lot going on. He lived a wild life, drugs, alcohol, steroids, lots of that stuff going on. And as a kid, I remember when he came back in like '88 and he was doing that. I remember the Slammy Awards where Hulk Hogan gave him the Real American Award and took the cane and broke it over his leg and, posed with Superstar. I thought that was a great moment of yesterday and today. Hulk Hogan was on top of the WWE at the time. And part of the reason why he is on top is because of the road that Superstar paved. That was a great moment and understandable and recognizable, even to an 11-year-old kid like me. I thought it was great. But everything that went on in his life, did cause a lot of bitterness. And when WWE had their scandal in the early 90s there, that steroid shit and that ring boy sexual abuse scandal and all that stuff that was going on, and there was that bizarre episode of Donahue where Vince was there, Bruno was there, Dave Meltzer was there, and Superstar Billy Graham. And he was very, very vengeful and angry and bitter towards Vince McMahon. And he made that known. You could feel and hear the genuine hate in his voice that he had for Vince McMahon. And that those bitter feelings and hate would last all the way until the early 2000s. I don't know, probably after his liver transplant. Maybe he had he went on to do the religious thing and all of that. So in the early 2000s there, I know he did reconcile with WWE. They brought him back in, put him in the Hall of Fame in 2004 before WrestleMania 20. I think they had the DVD release on him as well. And I do remember seeing video of like Vince and Superstar meeting for the first time backstage in catering or something for the first time in years. And they gave each other a hug. And it's like, it was mind blowing that these two could even come back together. And I think a lot of that was just Superstar cheating death, and maybe wanting to make amends with some of the regrets he had in his life. But once he started living longer, he started going back on all those again, and I know that I don't recall now the details. And like I said, I don't want to make this anything too negative about Superstar Billy Graham. But I know after this reconciliation with Vince in the WWE, after the Hall of Fame, after the DVD, there was another falling out somewhere in there to where Vince McMahon is a scumbag. And, a lot of his Facebook posts were very, suspect and very, angry and bitter towards the company, towards Vince, very outspoken, very opinionated, seemed to be outwardly angry all the time on purpose, aggressively for no apparent reason. And a lot of that stuff was just kind of when I stopped paying him no mind. But he never could figure out if he wanted to be on good terms with the company or bad. And this dated all the way back to the fucking 70s, man. Even in the 70s, he was having these issues. Left as soon as he dropped the belt, came back, left again, came back, left again, came back to do the DVD, got mad again, could never make up his mind. And it was a roller coaster of ups and downs with the relationship between him and the company. And again, it's sad that he couldn't have had a more, I guess maybe even a more successful career, because I think he could have had more success had he not made certain decisions or whatever. And it sucks that he had to spend a lot of his retirement years so angry, so bitter. Wish we could have gotten a little bit more of a happier ending with him, but in the end, still incredibly influential, and his reach goes far, in terms of the people he influenced, how the wrestling promo evolved. A lot of that, was due to superstar Billy Graham. He was able to, he was ahead of his time in a lot of ways, but also at the perfect time, because we did have some of the flamboyant, flashy characters in the 50s and 60s, but bringing that to the audience that he brought in the 1970s with more of the rock and roll look, and the tie-dye was just perfect. And then Hogan was able to take that seed of an idea and then turn it into a cartoon character, babyface, in the 1980s. And a lot of that can be credited to superstar Billy Graham, and that cannot be denied. So rest in peace, superstar Billy Graham. Looks like we got a release date, on AEW's video game, AEW Fight Forever. June 27th is what I'm hearing. Do I have that date right? Apparently it's finally coming out, although I don't think this has been officially announced by AEW. I think this is reports that we have been reading. But as you guys know, I do not play modern video games. Modern video games don't mean anything to me, so I don't care about the WWE 2Ks or the releases or anything like that, because I don't play them and I don't know them. So video game fans, hopefully this is good news for you. One thing I do like doing, even though I'm not a video game player, is I like to see what the feedback is on the game. And a lot of fans, with the WWE games have, talked about a lot of frustrating elements of the game and glitches and shit like that. So it'll be interesting to see how this one holds up in the video game market to other wrestling games, other fighting games. And it seems like they've spent enough time on this that it can't be bad, but maybe it will. And that would really suck, because I feel like they've been really stringing the fans along for a long time on the release of this. And it's taken a long time to develop and produce the game. And if it comes out after all this time, after all of this waiting, and it sucks, I guess that sucks for video game fans. Anyway, let's talk about some AEW ticket sales. We've got some interesting numbers here. Double or Nothing not doing well, even though I think the card for Double or Nothing is starting to look better, especially after this Wednesday. Ticket sales not great. Looks like we got about 7,000 tickets out right now for Double or Nothing for a 10,000 seat setup. So they're a little shy there. Hopefully they can get that papered at the last minute, but a lot less fans at this year's Double or Nothing. I think last year's Double or Nothing had 14,000 there. The T-Mobile Center looked full to me from where I was sitting. We had a blast. Sorry that I'm not going to be getting there this year. However, I will be at Dynamite 1 week from this Wednesday, the Dynamite after Double or Nothing here in San Diego. I have second row ringside seats for that, right there facing the hard cam, so you'll get a whole lot of me. I don't think I can take a sign, I can't take a Good Mike Work sign. I can't take my own sign to a show, right? That's lame. So no, I'm probably not going to do that. But keep a lookout for my bald head. I'll stand up a couple of times and wave to you guys. And so far, the ticket sales for that show are not great either. It looks like there's only about 2,000 to 3,000 seats sold for this one as well. So tickets for Double or Nothing and here in San Diego, not great. But what is great are the all-in numbers. I think there are about 65,000 tickets are out right now, 61,000 paid, and the setup currently right now for Wembley Stadium is 73,000. So they should be able to fill that to capacity. That's pretty incredible. Just wanted to touch on a couple of those numbers from AEW, since we have been on the subject of them a lot in the past few minutes. Why don't we talk about some more of them, shall we? And talk about Dynamite real quick before we talk about last night's SmackDown and some things going on in WWE's world. But last Wednesday's Dynamite was a lot of fun. We're not going to rehash the whole thing because we watched it together. But some of the interesting things we saw on that was the Wardlow promo and brawl with Christian, where we got the announcement, of the ladder match, because Christian and Lucha put down a beating on Wardlow using that ladder. It's Wardlow's own fault. Did you see what he was wearing? He looked like he had the collared shirt and the loafers and the no socks. Kind of deserve to get your ass kicked, Wardlow. Hate to tell you that. But now we have a ladder match scheduled at Double or Nothing, Christian and Wardlow. And I really want Christian to win this. I do. We'll see. I liked what they did with the pillars. It was fun because Darby, Sammy Guevara, and Jungle Boy all had matches and all got wins. Darby and Sammy had it relatively easy. Now, Sammy had it the easiest. He just had a squash against a jobber. He beat him in like 5 seconds. So Sammy had a night off. Darby Allin teamed with Orange Cassidy to defeat Lee Moriarty and Big Bill. Darby got the pin in that headlock, side headlock takeover into a pin, I guess, just proving to MJF that he can wrestle as well. And so he kind of had an easy go of it. But Jungle Boy must have pissed somebody off, because Jungle Boy had to face a man, a real man, a dude who in a shoot would eat Jungle Boy for lunch. And he had to face Roosh. And Roosh just beat the hell out of Jungle Boy most of this match. I mean, it was a very, very one-sided battle. Jungle Boy had his moments, but he was really being dominated to the point where I was like, while we were watching it, I said, there's no way that Jungle Boy is going to be able to make a comeback and like win with a finisher here, because we knew that all of the pillars were going to get wins. They're all going to get victories to continue the momentum into Double or Nothing. Jungle Boy just has a way harder time getting his win. And when he was being dominated so badly, I said the only way he's going to win this match is for him to catch a quick pin. I was like, he's not going to be able to mount a comeback, hit his finish, clean win in the middle. It's not going to happen that way. He's going to have to catch him with a quick little roll up or something. And that's exactly what happened. Won by the skin of his teeth, but man, he came real close to actually losing this match. And I didn't know if there was any storyline reason for it to be booked that way, why Sammy Guevara would be booked so easily in his match. I mean, just with the easiest match possible, where Jungle is in a match where technically he should have been the underdog. That didn't seem fair to me, but whatever. Jungle Boy just had a little bit more to prove, I guess. And he did come out on top, which gives him the momentum going into Double or Nothing, but may have weakened him a bit. I talked about Darby Allin teaming with Orange Cassidy. After that match, Orange Cassidy was interviewed, and he said that he would defend the international title at Double or Nothing against anybody. You know what? I don't care. If anybody wants a shot, you can go talk to Tony Khan, and I'll give you a shot. And I even said when we were watching, I'm like, one of the big problems I have in WWE with these open challenges is sometimes when there's an open challenge, the person opening the challenge is sitting in the ring for a good period of time before anybody comes out. And even when they come out through the stage with their music playing. You know, if you're dangling a championship in the middle of the ring, hey, anybody who wants this can come get it. Why is there not a stampede backstage of people trampling, fighting, brawling, trying to get to the ring, grabbing each other by the leg, tripping them, anything they can do to prevent them from getting out there, and they should be the first one to get to the ring. And these wrestlers shouldn't be coming through gorilla down the ramp. They should be coming through all corners of the building, through the crowd, wherever they happen to be in the arena. If they're on the other side taking a shit, pull up your britches, run out there, dive into the ring, get in there. First one there gets the title shot. That's how they work, right? Why do we never see these scenarios? So when OC, he mentioned that, hey, anybody can have a shot. I even said it that night. I said, people should be trampling themselves to get to Tony Khan's office. A couple of segments later, Cassidy's back with Renee, and she said, Orange Cassidy, can you believe it? That 20 people showed up at Tony Khan's door to challenge you for the championship. Not 22, not 23, not 19, not 18, 20 specifically. And Cassidy goes, well, I guess I'll just have to fight them all then. And since that includes me, that'll make it 21. We're in Vegas, Blackjack Battle Royal, or whatever the hell they called it. Orange Cassidy is going to be facing 20 other people in the Battle Royal for the title. So we'll see if that's where they actually want to take it off of him. It kind of feels like they're setting up a scenario here where Orange Cassidy will survive everybody and he'll be in the ring by himself, only for it to be revealed that somebody else is coming out, or he forgot about somebody and OC gets tossed over. Whatever's going to happen there, I don't know. But they might be setting that up. We saw the debut of Karen Jarrett in the whole Jarrett and Lethal promo. Or I think it was an FTR promo. I forgot who it was. Yeah, I think they were just coming out to the ring. It was Jarrett, Lethal, Sonjay, Satnam Singh. They're coming out to the ring. They're attacked from behind by FTR. They push Satnam Singh off the stage. He lands through like a table or crash pad or something. And then they're brawling in the ring, and they're about to hit Jeff with the big rig. And that's when Karen Jarrett shows up, low blows, I think, Cash, And then Jarrett strokes Dax. Now Satnam Singh's pissed. He shows back up, double choke slams both of them. And Karen Jarrett is now in AEW to join this group with Jeff Jarrett. I guess I don't have any issue with this because when Jarrett first came in, I didn't really want to see him there, but he kind of changed my mind. This has all been really fun, and this faction is super entertaining. So I don't think Karen Jarrett is going to hurt things here. They are very funny, and I'm sure they can factor her into entertaining things, and maybe it's part of Jeff's deal too. Hey, can we get my wife a job? And so now Karen Jarrett is there to join this entire crazy faction, and they will have a tag team championship match against FTR at Double or Nothing. I loved the Jericho and Roderick Strong Falls Count Anywhere match. They were in that stairwell there where they found that ledge and they were brawling on that. And of course, there was the stipulation that since there's already a stipulation that Adam Cole can't be in the building when Jericho is there, they had worked into the Roddy Jericho match that the entire Jericho Appreciation Society was also banned from the building. So, of course, in a Falls Count Anywhere match, should have seen this coming. All you got to do is get outside of the building, which they did, where Adam Cole was lurking in the bushes, and then he attacked Jericho, and him and Roddy put Jericho down and pinned him in the grass. You know how everybody tells everybody else to touch grass? Well, Jericho was touching it there, and he went down and lost, which makes me worried that he might actually beat Adam Cole at Double or Nothing. I'm not sure. We got a DQ finish in that Jay White, Ricky Starks match. We might get that ran back at Double or Nothing. I can't remember if they've announced that or not, but they probably will. And for the first time, I don't know how many times this has happened in Dynamite history, but we saw basically a promo or a segment and not a match open and close Dynamite, because Wardlow opened it up on Dynamite and then Don Callis would close it. Now, earlier on in the night, we saw the Bucks as they arrived to the arena. They didn't get really a chance to say where Kenny was, and the Blackpool Combat Club showed up and attacked him. So you didn't think the Bucks were going to be around, and you didn't think that Kenny was even there. And we haven't seen Hangman in forever. So I think the idea was here for you to believe that there was no Elite anywhere around, only to get the entire group reunited in full. And laughing at myself now on Wednesday, I'm thinking we're talking Kota Ibushi. I'm thinking Takeshita. I'm like, who's coming out? Completely forgetting about Hangman Page. But as Callis is in the ring, cutting his promo, Kenny Omega's music hits. He comes out. It's revealed that he is in fact there. And once he comes out, the Blackpool Combat Club swarms him, immediately attacks him. They're back in the ring. Moxley's on the mic as Kenny is recovering on the ramp. And that's when the Young Bucks music hits. They come out. They're still here. They're recovered from the beatdown earlier. They come and stand side by side with Kenny. And then the announce team, Excalibur specifically, keeps saying, but there's only 3 of them. And there's 4 BCCs and only 3 of them. And that's when Hangman Page's music hits, which was awesome. He comes out. He's got the golden eye patch. How many eye patches have we had now? Moxley, Pac, Julia Hart, maybe even Malachi Black might have had one, or maybe just his regular eye. And now Hangman Page. They love eye patches in AEW. All eye patch wrestling is what they should be called. So Hangman is then given the barbed wire broom by Kenny, and he kind of goes, yeah, it's such a great, this is exactly why we watch wrestling, is for moments exactly like this. And what an ovation he got. They charge the ring, they clean house, they dispose of the Blackpool Combat Club, singling out poor Wheeler Yuta, by the way, where he eats a BTE trigger and a beautiful buckshot lariat. And he recovers. And somebody pointed it out. I can't remember now. Somebody pointed it out on social media that during all of this, and tell me if I'm right or wrong about this. During all this, they're saying that Bryan Danielson wasn't that physically involved. Is it possible that he might be a little bit banged up as well? I mean, he's booked for this Anarchy in the Arena match, which incidentally, after the Elite cleared the ring, Hangman Page got on the mic and he said, "We are the Elite." And then he challenged Blackpool Combat Club to Anarchy at the Arena, Anarchy in the Arena at Double or Nothing. Man, it's hard to say that sometimes. And that was kind of the closing line there, Anarchy in the Arena, which we kind of knew we were going to get because we had an Anarchy in the Arena match last year. Everybody, the Moxley and company made the entrance right through my section. It was awesome. So doing that again this year, if they make that a yearly thing at Double or Nothing, I think would be pretty fun. And this one is going to be great. It's been a great story. They've had a great issue between these two factions. I've enjoyed all of it. All of it. The Elite versus the Blackpool Combat Club has been fun. And the Blackpool Combat Club being able to survive and do well, despite the way the whole Regal thing ended, I think is really great. And I've been entertained by all of this stuff. And I can't wait to see this match, because last year, being in the audience, it was a little hard to see everything. You couldn't see what the hell was going on because so much of it was spread out all over the arena. And being able to watch this at home with the cameras might be a little bit more fun or interesting. And I'm looking forward to this one a lot. Dynamite was an awesome show this past week, I got to say. And it was really great to see the Elite, and you can feel the way it's all coming now. I really hope that that CM Punk can work things out, because you feel like the Elite are really going to anchor Dynamite, and Saturday is going to be for the Punks and the Miros and the Samoa Joes and that. And you get those two rosters going, who knows? Maybe great things can happen, but we need CM Punk back in order to do that. So hopefully that all gets worked out. But Double or Nothing, is looking pretty good. And also last night on Rampage, I didn't see the show, but I did see that Adam Cole and Jericho have agreed to an unsanctioned match at Double or Nothing. So we're going to get Cole and Jericho unsanctioned. And I'm sure that's going to could mean anything. And I don't know how they're going to book that. With Jericho losing on Wednesday, I feel like he might somehow get a win here, but I feel like Jericho's going to get the better of Adam Cole this Wednesday. Whatever these guys do, because I know Jericho tore up the agreement that said Cole can't be in the building or whatever, and that's when he made a beeline for Jericho. So maybe this Wednesday they do something else, and it's Jericho putting Cole down in the ring, beating him up or something, standing over his body and laughing, and then Cole gets the win at Double or Nothing. We'll have to see. But that match is now set for Double or Nothing as well. So here's what we've got for Double or Nothing. We have, of course, the Four Pillars main event. MJF defending against Sammy Guevara, Jungle Boy, and the other one, Darby Allin. We have Anarchy in the Arena, Elite versus the Blackpool Combat Club. That's going to be great. We have Chris Jericho and Adam Cole in their unsanctioned match. We have FTR defending the AEW tags against Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, with Mark Briscoe is the special referee. Jamie Hayter, who, by the way, was bumped from, I didn't mention that women's match, which was really good on Dynamite, by the way, but she was actually bumped and not cleared to wrestle on Dynamite, but she is scheduled to face Toni Storm at Double or Nothing, and they made that match on Wednesday. So if they made it on Wednesday, I guess that means the belief is that Hayter will be good to go for Double or Nothing. Hopefully she will be, and they don't have to pull her from this too, and we don't want another interim women's championship situation. Also announced is the Wardlow and Christian ladder match for the TNT title. I'm actually hoping Christian wins that, because I think he would be a very entertaining TNT champion. I like Wardlow a lot, but feels like that TNT title has been hot potatoed around a lot lately. And, put it on Christian. I think he'd make a great heel champion. He's great at promos, and hell, maybe he can even pass it to Luchasaurus if they have some sort of a breakup or something. That might be nice. And of course, we have Orange Cassidy defending his international title in that 21-man thing. Whatever's going to happen there. So that's what we have for Double or Nothing. We'll talk about the Night of Champions card in a minute, but we should talk about SmackDown first. Cruising back over here to the chat, get this all caught up down here. Let me knock out this super from Mark. Appreciate that $2, my friend. I have a hunch that Strong will turn on Cole at Double or Nothing. Yeah. You're the one that brought that up earlier. Is that what your chat said earlier? Pardon my memory. Yeah. You're the one that pitched having Adam Cole join the Elite and having Strong join Blackpool Combat Club. That would be awesome, especially if they can figure out, if Strong turned on Cole at Double or Nothing, you could do that. But then I almost wonder if that means Strong would join the J. No, I don't think Strong would join the JES, because he just had a match with Jericho. So I don't think the turn will come at Double or Nothing. I feel I feel like the Strong turn on Cole would have to come later. I think the Cole and Jericho stuff would need to end first. Otherwise, you're overlapping the two issues. So if you just finish up Cole and Jericho, then after Anarchy in the Arena, then you move on to something else, and maybe There's a match with Cole against one of the Blackpool guys randomly on TV, Cole and Yuta. And then Roddy turns on Cole and joins the Blackpool Combat Club, and they start beating down Adam Cole, and then the entire Elite come out to make the save. That's going to be something after Double or Nothing, on TV. Wednesday, maybe right here in San Diego, right here in the whale's vagina. That very scenario could happen, Mark. I like it. I like it. Nice, Zach. Game comes out on your birthday. Oh, Rodrigo, thank you. Santana also had an eye patch. I forgot about that. So, yeah, all eye patch wrestling. They love it. It's kind of like their deal. Anyway, what's next on my list? We got to talk about last night's SmackDown. By the way, I could still use those likes if you don't mind. That would be very, very helpful. Let me get my notes pulled back up wherever I'm supposed to be. There we go. Last night's SmackDown, not much happened. All I really paid attention to was the Bloodline promo and a couple of other things. And what was interesting about the Bloodline promo, I mean, everything about the Bloodline is interesting, but lately with the Usos, kind of on the outs, Roman and Solo getting the tag team title shot at Night of Champions. And my whole thoughts that you guys already know on that. And now we have Roman and Solo and Heyman. They're in the ring cutting a promo with, or having a segment with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And Zayn is really starting to get under Roman's skin. And Roman had a lot of interesting kind of looks and body language last night that I did find interesting and telling. And right when Roman's kind of getting Sami Zayn's face, the Usos then, I guess unannounced, jump in the ring, come from behind, and they start attacking Owens and Zayn. This pisses off Roman Reigns. After Owens and Zayn are taken out, Roman's yelling at them. I didn't tell you to come out here. This is my plan. I'm doing this. I'm the quarterback, whatever, getting on both of their cases for coming out there when he didn't ask them to. And as he hastily turns away to leave the ring, he bumps shoulder to shoulder with Solo. And for the first time during Roman's entire heel run in the last 3 years, I saw fear behind his eyes. It was like a split second, but he bumped Solo and he kind of was like, and he kind of did this double look. It was not a look of confidence. It was the look of somebody who was like, oh shit, did I just poke the bear type of thing? And he had this little tiny look of just straight fear. That's all it was. It was fear. And a lot of people have been pointing to Solo this whole time. I haven't even talked much about Solo in this regard. The only time I've ever mentioned it is when somebody else has brought it up. But a lot of you have mentioned a few times that you feel like Solo is going to be a pivotal part of Roman's downfall. Some people even feel like Solo is going to be the one to take the belt off of Roman Reigns. I don't think that's the case, but man, what a way to build a guy, right? And Solo has been very tough. Even in losses, he's still booked to look pretty strong. He's got a lot of that Umaga in him. And I like the Solo persona because he's, so straightforward, and he does a pretty good job of not laughing. I mean, Sami Zayn has had him close a few times to cracking up there, but other times, most of the time, Solo is a complete rock, and he means business. And we've never really been able to get a read on him. And what might look like loyalty to Roman is actually contempt or dislike or frustration. Maybe Solo hates the way Roman treats the Usos. But we would never know it because the dude never says anything or talks or has a different facial expression other than one. And I myself admittedly had probably been misreading this whole situation. I've been wondering when the hammer's going to drop and when Solo is going to get the nod to take out his two brothers, when in reality, he might not be able to do that. And the one he's going to be taken out is Roman Reigns. And that adds yet another dynamic to this already great story. And I think what Sami Zayn's been trying to say to Jay all this time is that, the bloodline is crumbling, around Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns is going to wind up losing all of them. And the only one that he might be able to keep is Paul Heyman. I don't know how he's going to be able to alienate Paul Heyman, but the abuse that Roman has been laying on the Usos, it might become too much for Brother Solo to stomach. And that's when he steps in, and then Roman's lost everybody. Now, when do you do this? I still think this is a ways off. I think the beginning of this starts at Night of Champions. I don't think Roman and Solo win the tag team titles, as I said last week, and even released a mic drop on the clip, I feel like one of the main reasons why Roman is in this match is so the World Heavyweight title can be the only world championship defended on that show. So that can be highlighted. That way, if Roman is going to take a back seat, he's not going to be in the main event, I wouldn't think. I would think it's either going to be the World Heavyweight Championship match or even Cody and Brock, but it's not going to be Roman's tag match. So Roman is now going to be on the undercard, because if he was defending his title, an argument would be made for that to be the main event. It probably would be, and that would make the World Heavyweight title legitimately look like a consolation prize or a third place belt, which I feel like WWE should try to avoid if at all possible. So having Roman challenge for the tags makes sense to me. And where you can start this stuff is having them lose to Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. As long as Roman doesn't take the pin here, I don't see anything wrong with it. Hell, you could even do a complete non-finish at all. Nobody has to take a pin here if you don't want. You can just have a DQ. I don't think there's a stipulation in this match, right? So you could DQ this thing if you want. You could even have Solo walk out, or just, maybe the Bloodline just aborts mission and just says, forget it. Solo leaves and Roman follows him. What the hell, man? And gets counted out. Who knows? I kind of think it would be, I feel like the Usos could cost Roman and Solo here, maybe accidentally, perhaps, or maybe even on purpose. But I think the Usos will play a role, which sucks for them. The Usos are going to have to fly, I'm assuming, unless they stay home. But I'm assuming the Usos are going to make this trip all the way to Saudi Arabia to do a run-in. Imagine that. All that way for a run-in. But that's probably going to be their job. And if they show up in that match and they do something that costs Roman and Solo the victory, that can carry over to the next week's TV, where you can hash all this out and maybe have some sort of a major thing go down right there. Like, whenever you plan to do the Bloodline crumble, whether it crumbles partially or all at once, when do you do that? Before Money in the Bank, after Money in the Bank, before SummerSlam, after SummerSlam, at SummerSlam? Where do you do this? And where is the right time to finally have some sort of resolution here? But I think it all needs to tie closely into anyway, when Roman loses the championship. And as I said, there's that Madison Square Garden SmackDown sitting there right after Money in the Bank that would be the perfect place. Although I no longer want that to happen, because I booked a vacation for that weekend. I'm not going to be in town. I'm going to be on the East Coast. It's the only weekend that really worked out with me and my friends, and we were coordinating weekends. I'm like, this one's bad for me, this one's bad for them. And then when we got to it, it was just that weekend. And I'm like, I can't not go because Cody might win the title on SmackDown. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of hoping that scenario no longer happens, because if it did, I would want to be home and talk about it and do a video about it and all of that. So I'm hoping that my Madison Square Garden Money in the Bank idea actually does not happen now. But if it turns out to be SummerSlam for Cody, or if it turns out to be Cody at all, I think that whenever Roman drops the belt, it should have something to do with the demise of the Bloodline. Meaning it either happens in that match or it's happened right before that match, leaving Roman with nobody to fight on his own, and then he loses, or it happens right after that match when he blames everybody for his loss, and then it's, the Bloodline implodes. So wherever that is, and whatever the plans are, and whenever they plan to do it, could be at any time, I guess, but your guess is as good as mine. I don't really know. The Usos were in action last night as well. They lost to the LWO. Owens and Zayn came out to help the LWO win that. Looks like we're kicking off an Austin Theory and Sheamus feud, as Sheamus and Theory had a segment, and Theory got his dumb face brogue kicked right off by Sheamus. Rooting for Sheamus hard in that one. We saw Pretty Deadly debut. We knew they were going to be facing the Brawling Brutes. They set that up last week. I was hoping that this would all be the beginning of Butch becoming Pete Dunne again. And maybe it still is if they want to disband the Brutes. I mean, they're all still on the same show, but I mean, I feel like they were great, but they've kind of ran their course, and I'd like to see maybe something different for Pete Dunne, maybe something different for Ridge as well. And of course, Sheamus now going to be working a promo with Theory. I feel like Sheamus is going to, lose this. Theory beat John Cena at WrestleMania, but he also feels like he's cooled off a bit. So this will be a good way to tell if WWE still wants to move forward with Theory, or if they're going to take a break and put the U.S. title on Sheamus. They'll probably book that match for Night of Champions if it's not been made already. I guess that's the plan. but we will see. And like I said, with Pretty Deadly defeating the Brawling Brutes, I was watching that last night, and I had this idea. I was thinking mostly about Butch, about Pete Dunne. I'm like, if they can give him his name back, that would be spectacular. We all miss Pete Dunne. I would love to see the Bruiserweight return. And if they did decide to kind of break up the Brutes and you moved Ridge Holland onto something else, the Brutes are a babyface group right now. They're all babyfaces, right? I'm not imagining that. So Ridge is a babyface, and this is just a hypothetical. I'm always looking for the happy endings and the feel-good moments and that type of thing because I'm a complete fucking sap. But I think it would be cool if Ridge goes kind of on a singles babyface run. Fans are into him, and he's having a match one night, and he's getting his ass kicked by heels. Maybe it's a match against someone in a faction, or someone in a tag team, and then after the match, there's a beatdown, and he's getting his ass kicked. And they're about to Brian Pillman his neck in a chair or something gnarly, to where, oh my God, Michael Cole, if they do this, Ridge is going to be permanently injured or whatever. And then Big E's music hits. Big E returns to the WWE, doing a run-in, saving Ridge Holland from permanent injury by these dastardly heels, runs them off. The crowd's going nuts for Big E. Big E goes over and takes the chair out of Ridge Holland's neck, lifts him up. There's kind of this awkward stare. And then they hug. I mean, Randy Savage, Miss Elizabeth, WrestleMania 7 stuff. I mean, that's different, because I know traditionally in wrestling, Big E would come back and target Ridge Holland for breaking his neck, for doing what he did to him. But Ridge was a heel back then. He's a babyface now. Also, the guilt that a wrestler has when you injure somebody like that, and just the personal guilt that he's probably had to feel, even though I'm sure his peers and everybody, including Big E, it's not your fault, no hard feelings. You can say that all you want. You're still going to have that guilt if you're any sort of a decent person at all. And, there might be a lot of people on the roster that feel sorry for Ridge, that he has to go through that guilt. Maybe Big E feels that way. And Big E's always kind of been a little bit different anyway and gone against the grain. And I think it would be nice for once in wrestling to see something go the other way, where he came back and saved Ridge from a brutal beatdown, something that was going to injure his neck. The man that put him on the shelf for over a year and broke his neck, you just came back and saved his, basically saying no hard feelings, respect. I think the wrestling world could just use that. It would be the equivalent of watching a cat video on Twitter in the middle of all your stupid political shit on your timeline, It would just be a nice, timeline cleanse, And it would be like that for wrestling, and it would kind of resolve that issue right away. That way, if Big E came back, you'd have to wonder if they'd ever have to have a match between these two, if they'd even want to acknowledge what happened or anything like that. And I think if, Big E kind of came back and, endorsed or partnered up with Ridge as a way of saying, hey, all good, I'm back, and it would be good for them, it would be good for the fans, might be a whole therapeutic, cathartic type of thing. And it was just an idea that I had that I thought would be fun if we saw something like that. But we probably won't. Just an idea. By the way, I just hope Big E's doing well, and I hope his recovery is going well, and I hope we see him again one day. Luckily, the LA Knight and Rick Boogs tag team did not last, thank God. They still have no earthly fucking clue what to do with a great talent like LA Knight. It's frustrating to watch. It's not something I'm putting the blame on Vince McMahon at all. This is all Triple H. This is his deal, his doing. Push this guy, you big-nosed idiot. So luckily, the Street Profits beat LA Knight and Rick Boogs, and after the match, Knight turned on Boogs. Looks like that situation is over. Isla Dawn and Alba Fire made their debut as well last night, defeating a couple jobbers. So they, the NXT Tag Team Champions, are now on SmackDown as well. I will repeat that. The NXT Women's Tag Team Champions are on SmackDown. Asuka defeated Zelina. I kind of thought, since the match between Bianca and Asuka is already made for Night of Champions, that Bianca should come out here and get some revenge for last week and help Zelina win. At this point, what would it do for Asuka to lose here? Nothing. The match is already made. You have Bianca come out, get revenge for what happened to her last week. You give Zelina a win because she was out there wearing her Puerto Rican outfit from Backlash. You give her a win after she had her big moment and loss against Rhea Ripley. It would give a little boost to Zelina. It would do nothing to harm Asuka because it's all within, the context of the Bianca feud. And you can still have your match with Bianca and Asuka and Night of Champions, but they didn't do that. Asuka got the win anyway, and Bianca did make her presence known, but it didn't stop Asuka from winning. Grayson Waller effect, boring. I like Grayson Waller. I'm not a huge fan of these talk shows because I understand that talk shows are always going to have a place in wrestling. I'm very nostalgic for them. I grew up with Piper's Pit, with Snake Pit, with Brother Love Show and all that stuff. But nowadays, it's just a different set in the ring. Miz TV and Kevin Owens Show and the other 5 they have, they're all interchangeable and none of them feel different than the others. So when I saw the Grayson Waller effect and how they have that set up, I'm like, okay, it's just another stage with more shit in the ring and another logo. That's all it is. And another charismatic star who can cut a decent promo as the host. We've seen this a trillion times, and now Grayson Waller has a show. And of course, it wasn't very good. He brought out AJ Styles, and the whole punchline of the whole damn thing is when he's building up AJ for winning the World Heavyweight Championship, he then says, and it's going to be great to hear the announcer say, new World Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins. You knew he was going to say that. And I don't even think they brawled, did they? So anyway, that might begin a feud for AJ on SmackDown. Also, we saw a Karrion Kross vignette where he revealed AJ Styles on those tarot cards. But AJ Styles is in the World Heavyweight Championship match against Seth Rollins at Night of Champions. The rule states that if AJ wins the belt, he will automatically be transferred to Raw and be a Raw star. So why would you plant the seeds for a Grayson Waller feud and a Karrion Kross feud if he's going to be going to Raw? I mean, I've been Team Seth since day one, from the minute the World Heavyweight Championship belt has been announced. But once AJ Styles won on the SmackDown bracket, I'm like, well, now I'm in a situation where I'm happy either way. Belt up whoever you want. Greg ain't going to complain. I like AJ. I like Seth. Both of their names would look absolutely beautiful atop any world title lineage. So I am cool. I like being in a position where I'm going to be happy regardless. And for some people who are saying, I believe AJ Styles should be the World Heavyweight Champion, I'm not going to disagree with you. I'll totally be satisfied with that if that's the way they go. But now, given what we saw last night on SmackDown, is that really what they're going to do? Are they telegraphing this championship? I mean, I felt like all along it's Seth's belt to win, unless they threw something at us last minute. And you can make a case for AJ, final, year or two probably of his professional career, one final feather in his cap, that type of thing would all look very good. Unless they want to do it like they did the Universal title. Because with the Universal title, it was Balor and Seth, and Balor won it first, and then Seth would take a while before he would win it, right? But with AJ and Seth, maybe AJ wins it at Night of Champions and becomes the first champion, but then you do like an immediate rematch, maybe when they get home on Monday Night Raw. That night, apparently, we're going to be crowning new women's tag team champions, which I'll mention in a minute. So maybe AJ wins it and then drops it right back to Seth, and then he goes back to SmackDown and resumes those Grayson Waller or Karrion Kross feuds, but probably not. I mean, the way they've set this up on SmackDown, although Karrion Kross also tried to set something up with Nakamura, and that didn't get very far, so maybe the AJ thing doesn't mean anything either. But having Grayson Waller be a dick to him on that show, you feel like AJ is going to want to, have more to say to Grayson, which will have one more SmackDown to do that, but I feel like these are feud planting seeds here, and that makes me think AJ is going to be staying put on SmackDown, which if he is, that means Seth Rollins will be the one to win the World Heavyweight title at Night of Champions. Like I said, we're going to be crowning new women's tag team champions again because the titles have been vacated again, as Liv Morgan got injured, had to vacate the title. So her and Raquel vacated the titles. And the plan as of right now, and as long as they don't change it 6 times, is to do a fatal 4-way on Monday the 29th, the Monday Night Raw after Night of Champions. And in this match is going to be Raquel with a mystery partner. So she is going to get a chance here to regain her championship if she finds a partner. Apparently she has found one. They're going to be facing Bayley and Io Sky, Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green, and Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. I don't know how you just don't give the 2 belts to these women. These belts are jokes. The women's tag team championships are worth nothing, less than nothing. They have negative value. They've been vacated multiple times. Stars have walked out while they've been champions because they've been so disgusted with the booking. The tag team division has been virtually non-existent. There is no women's tag team division at all. It's been a pointless championship and belts that literally mean nothing and I have zero respect for. I have been bitter and grumpy about these tag team championships ever since they were created. I want them to be great. I want WWE to make a women's tag team division and make it good. It shouldn't be that hard to create teams and make more permanent teams and have a division that competes and contends for these titles. But it's literally considered an afterthought. They just throw shit together. Oh, you two are in a team. Now you two are in a team. Some of these women have had 6 or 7 different tag team partners that they've tried to challenge for the tag team championships with. It's impossible to keep track of, and it's nothing more than just time-filling nonsense on the show, and the women deserve better than that. So I say at this point, the only way to salvage these fucking titles is to give them to Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler and keep them on them until their contracts expire. That is the only way these belts are going to mean anything. And that way, if you have a dominant team right at the top, at least you have a dominant team at the top instead of a thrown together team at the top. So I would just give it to them and let them run the Brothers of Destruction angle until you can develop a team that can actually compete and contend with them. They might have to mow through everybody for a year. That's fine. But maybe during them doing that, going on that run, you can develop some underneath teams that can start gaining momentum and eventually one day take down the champions. But most likely what's going to happen is Ronda and Shayna are going to win the titles for a little while, and they're going to lose them to another random slap together team. And the titles are just going to revert back to right where they were before. Useless. So anyway, that's coming up on Raw on May 29th. And I think that's pretty much it for all of my news and notes. I guess here's what we have for Night of Champions so far. Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. Gunther versus Ali. Ali earned that right on Monday Night Raw, so I feel like Ali's going to give Gunther one hell of a match in Saudi Arabia, only for Gunther to get the win in the end. Bianca Belair taking on Asuka for the Raw Women's title, and of course, tag team championships on the line. Owens and Zayn defending against Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. So 5 matches on there. We're probably going to get another 1 or 2. And Night of Champions and Double or Nothing both look pretty decent, at least so far on paper. So anywho, that is kind of going to do it for me. I've got a long night. I got to get out here, head over to work. And then, of course, tomorrow, we got a big day here on the channel. So make sure you return for our double header. If you're a channel member, join us tomorrow afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Me and Elizabeth are going to sit right here together and watch Monday Night Raw from January 11th, 1994, the night that Bret the Hitman Hart defended his WWE title against the 1-2-3 Kid. That was a show hand-selected by Elizabeth. Then later that night, open to the public, we're going to watch King of the Ring 1994, and we're going to talk about how much everybody weighs. Tomorrow's going to be fun. Hope you guys can join me. Let me just cruise to the chat and make sure I haven't missed anything major. Oh, I did. Let me knock out a couple of super chats here before we go. Excuse me. Off Leather Wings. Thank you so much for the $5. Glad to catch you on a Saturday night, Greg. Do you have any tattoos? No, I do not. I've never got any. Just never. I'm not against tattoos at all. I think they look great on men and women. I just never chose to get any. And nothing. I've never just wanted to print anything on my body. Just never had a desire. Nothing against them. But I think all my friends do. Elizabeth's got them. Everybody I know has them, except for me. I'm tattooless. I'm Buddy Murphy up in here. Rodrigo, good to see you, my friend. Appreciate that $2 from you as well. What if Adam Cole to end MJF's AEW championship run? I'm into that. One thing we did say about MJF this past week is I don't think he's going to be losing the title at Double or Nothing to any of the pillars. If he was, I would probably put over Darby, but I feel like at this point, you've got All In on the calendar. All In is there. London, Wembley Stadium, 20 quadrillion people are going to be in that building. You probably want to book a title change there, wouldn't you think? Now, it doesn't have to be that way. I just feel like they could be building to a big title change at that show. So either that or a big attraction match, like a CM Punk against Kenny Omega, something like that. But if it's a championship match and you're going to do a big title change in that arena and create a memory for your company, a big world championship change in an arena like that, it's probably a memory you're going to want to create if you're Tony Khan. So that means either MJF loses the belt between now and All In, and that person drops the belt at All In, or MJF is the one to lose the belt at All In. And I think MJF, being a heel, as saucy as he is and as spicy as he is on the mic and all the things he can say and do, if I'm Tony Khan, from where I sit, that's where I'm targeting MJF's title loss, is there in Wembley Stadium. But that means MJF's going to have to retain at Double or Nothing, retain at Forbidden Door, retain at Fyter Fest, and make it all the way till the end of the summer. And if he does that, that would be a perfect place in my mind to have him drop the belt. But if not, then I think you're going to have another major match on that show. A Kenny, Punk, Kenny and FTR, or I'm sorry, a Punk and FTR against the Elite, something like that. You're going to have to make up for not doing a title change at All In. You know what I mean? So I feel like MJF will survive here, and whoever beats him at All In could be Adam Cole, and I'd be into that because I love Adam Cole. He's definitely top 5 for sure in terms of just wrestlers I like. Adam Cole is the best, so I would have no problem with that. I think that's a wrap. I got to get out of here now. Lots of stuff to do. Thank you for hanging out with me today for 2 hours. It's always fun. And tomorrow, like I said, is going to be a big one. You might also get me on Monday. You might also get me on Wednesday. You might even get me on both, but I doubt it. You're also going to get me this Thursday for predictions, and you're going to get me next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, for Night of Champions and Double or Nothing reviews. It's going to be a week, y'all. So stay tuned. Thanks again for being here. Have a great rest of your Saturday.